Okay, hi everybody. How are we all doing? Hope everyone's staying cool on this very hot day towards the end of July. Welcome to the 102 training level. We're basically going to be going over some of the more bells and whistles kind of thing in the system. We're going to go over displays, how to create custom displays, and go over a little bit more about sets. As always, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, either just holler out, because there's not 10 million of those, holler out or raise a hand or whatever. And at the end, we'll have time for questions about everything and questions on other topics that you may have as well. Let me just look at this really quick. Just making sure that somebody else isn't messaging that they need to get in. Okay, no. Okay. So one of the, I think, super beneficial things about this system, having come from a system that I wasn't able to create my own reports and my own things and had to have somebody else do it for me, which was really frustrating in a lot of cases. This is great because any kind of report display that you want to do, you can create yourself. So displays will actually kind of cover a range of different areas. It'll be what you're seeing in that kind of spreadsheet view. It'll also be how your reports come out if you need to run a report for something. We are going to, as usual, hop back and forth between the sandbox and between Fairfield. Mostly I can use Sandbox for demonstration, but Fairfield, I know there's more data in there, so it might be more clear when we see some of the reports and things. But we can play with stuff in the Sandbox. Do a Fairfield display. So right now, if I go to, this is mainly going to all focus on objects, although the displays are also applicable for your other modules as well, entities, exhibitions, and all that. You can create displays for them. So if we go into objects, it'll usually show up with the last display that you were using in your system. So there's a few canned displays that come with everything. There's usually like a test migration display or something, a researcher display, an all information kind of thing. There's only like 3 or 4 of them. You can, however, create as many displays as you need or want. And those are things that you can do and share with the rest of the people on your staff, or you can just create them for yourself. I have a bunch of them created for me in Fairfield because I was working on a bunch of different projects, and it was just useful to see information in a different way. Let me go to the Sandbox for 1 second. So to get to change your displays, it will be the same as if you're changing from this kind of spreadsheet list view to the like thumbnail view. Click on this little gear up here where it says display options. I'm going to keep it in the list for now, and display type is basically here. So there's a handful in the Sandbox right now. Current locations, researcher display, tools. Some of those are just regular ones that come with. Some of these I think people have added, but you can kind of create a bunch of different ones. If you wanted to get out of here rather than choosing display, hit the little minus. You hop back to Fairfield. So clicking under here, keeping with the list on this display. So these are all the displays right now that I have going in Fairfield. I could actually clean a couple of these out because I don't need them anymore. But most of them only I can see because I figured it wasn't anything that somebody else needed to see, and I can change the ability to share it with other people as needed. So as you're going along, doing different things, doing different projects, and I know I've had a couple members that have needed to do an inventory or needed to do create a report for an inventory that would be understandable by somebody else, then you can do that here if you needed specific fields for. So one of the things, so we've got general object report. Let me click on that. That's one of the ones that I think pretty much everybody has. So this will give you things, your main things, your object identifier, a related accession, object titles. It gives you basically a large amount of the fields. One thing with this is if you need to, if it's a wider range of fields, you'll need to either go all the way down to the bottom and move the slider bar over, or if you're working on a laptop, you can just move from side to side with the touchpad. So you don't get the big wide screen that you would on a desktop necessarily, but the touchpad will help you go back and forth. So this very generic one has identifier, object title, alternative titles, dates, the curatorial descriptions in here, related entities, credit line provenance, pretty much any of the main fields that you would need. Related storage locations, all of that. There's plenty of times when you don't need all that information. Also, when your curatorial descriptions are longer, they'll make the boxes wider, and sometimes you just need that really, like, I just need to see these few things. I don't need these huge fields of things blowing everything out. Go look at one of the other ones. One of the things that I had found was really useful is I needed to compare when I was cleaning up my data after migration was what the lot number was that was assigned, what the object number was, and what any alternate numbers there were. Because we have a 3 or 4 numbering systems at Fairfield, maybe 5. So sometimes it's useful to be able to see that all together. So I created this lot object alt number list, which is really not useful to anybody but me necessarily, because it's very plain. There's no images, there's no anything else, but we've got what the objects are, credit lines I put in, other numbers. I could have sorted it a different way because I want to see some of the other stuff. And you can just next through pages as you go too. You can also, and I didn't mention this the other day, on this jump to page up here, if you have 222 pages and you know your stuff's more at the end, you can just type in 200 and it'll jump to page 200. So now this is more down at the other end of the field. So you can jump pages if you're looking for something in particular, which comes in super handy. Oh, the other thing was I did. All right, this has got more stuff in it, so you can see it a little bit better. The lot number, the object number, and related numbers. There's an inventory number. There's a box number. There's a couple inventory things. Here's a bunch of our numbers stuck in there, so you can kind of see things all together. So just, yeah, depends what you need to do. So as you're going through daily life, or somebody asks you for a report that none of your existing displays are useful for, start thinking about what fields you want. Sometimes people will like just write it out on a piece of paper, like which things they need to have included in this report, or you can just kind of jump in and start putting it together and play with it. The way to create a display, oh, actually one quick thing before I do that, let me go into a record for a second, kind of covering the what displays can do for you. So this is the main record page. If you go down to the bottom here and click on summary, you also have displays up here that you can use. So right now, this summary display is the general object report. So when I pull this down, these are all those same displays that I was looking at before in the other one. So if we wanted to do the lot object alt number for this is what that comes out as. It just gives you just that information. And the summary in general is set to have these little images at the top. So when you're looking at the screen. So at this little PDF thing here, You can download summary as PDF, or you can also do it as Word up here. Select one, hit download. And you should still be able to see that. It just gives you the sheet of what you just had. So I can close that guy. And then if you wanted something else, if you wanted something like an exhibition label, you can click that. Same idea. Oops. And this is the information that we have on our exhibition label one. So that's where you can use it as that kind of spreadsheet kind of view, but also in mind of what you might want in a like a Word document or a summary export screen. So to create your reports, we're going to go up to Manage My Displays. And you'll see, let me get a sandbox for a second. Yours will much more likely look like this. It'll have up here new display 4, and you can do collections, entities, list items, loans, all of these things up here. Right now, the sandbox only has like these 3 content types here. Something about tools, related entities, photo report, related entities we did the other day. If you're somewhere where you've got a ton of things here and you don't remember what you called something or want to go through it, you can use the filter to search at the top. Oh, deaccession review, that's what I called that one. So you can click on that record to go in and edit that. There was also a proposed deaccession report that I had put together too for something to pass on to the committees and the board and everything. Going back to the sandbox. So you want to create a new report. You're going through and say you just want to know acquisition information or basic information about something. So new display, there's a pull down here. So you're going to select objects, then the little plus. And you'll see a view that very much looks like the rest of the system with the display list name, display code, all this other stuff. You won't see anything over here until you hit save and create the list. Then it'll give you the options of how to set everything up. So display list name, we're going to say, actually, let's say registrar. Under the display code, it will for this one kind of pop in its own language. I just kind of put my own in, so it doesn't have to worry about it. Well, that's what had been up before. Try not to use spaces in this because it's kind of a just a system name. So we'll do that. So the next one down where you see is system display. You can choose to have it displayed to everybody else at your institution, or if you want to keep it just for you, like your education staff doesn't need it, it'll just make it messy, stuff like that. You can just leave that there. So is system display, for our purposes, just for now, I'm going to say yes. Display settings, display empty values. Yes, because I want to see that the field is there and that it is blank in that field. So I'm going to leave that. I usually skip the show display in because its options are wherever. You can restrict by type. So if you only wanted to do registrar info for moving images, you could select that and it would only be available when you're looking at that kind of thing. I've never used the restriction on it. I can see where it would be handy, but I've not used it. Just for kicks for now, we're going to get back to user and group access in a little bit. Let me click save. Now you see over here, you've got these 3 choices of basic info, display list, and the log. The log, like the same thing that's on all of the different modules and different pages, where you can go in and see who did what when. So if you click on that, you're basically just going to see that I created that today. If anybody changes anything, you'll see that as it goes too. So the next one down, display list, this is where you're going to start adding fields to your display. It's the easiest thing in the world because you're just dragging and dropping fields from what's available to what to display. The only fussy thing is you have to know what the name of that field is, or the closest thing to it, because this is a very long list of fields because it includes everything in that module. So it takes a little bit of scrolling back and forth to kind of find what exactly you're looking for. It usually takes me a couple times with this to get something looking exactly the way I want. I'll pull a bunch of stuff over, save it, go back and look at it with actual objects and go, oh, you know what, this would make more sense if I moved this column over here, or if I added this other column, or this field isn't what I thought it was, so I'm going to get rid of that. So we're going to go for basically basic things here. So and with everything, like the little box, if you hold it up, will explain what something is, but it's basically the names are what it is. Object accessory. Accessory refers to something belonging to an object. It's pretty straightforward. So we're going to look for oh, you know, and as you go through, you can just start adding things over. So you know what, I'm like, I do want the credit line, so I'm going to put that over there while I see it. I'm not going to worry about description or anything like that right now. You know, I do want object dates. Yeah, we'll put dimensions just for kicks. We're going to go find, usually down at the bottom, because you notice it's alphabetical and it's all object something. So you're looking for object ID or object title or something. It's going to be down towards the bottom. I do want to put object lot for this because I'm talking about registrar information. So I want to see what this was related to, if it had an opt. So here's our object identifier. So we want to put that in. Media representation, there's a ton of different choices for this. I usually just look for the one that says thumbnail or something like that. So something small when you're going to be doing it. Small would work too, but here's thumbnail. Object status, you know, we kind of do want that to see where the record status is. And I was looking for one more thing. That'll work for now. Okay, so we're going to click save. And as always, if you don't save it, the system will yell at you and say you forgot to save. So I'm going to use one of, actually, no, I'm in the sandbox. We're going to use just a generic search on everything. So it doesn't automatically go to that display. You'll have to select it and pull it up. So you go back to your gear, display. Now we want register, we get registrar info. Click the little arrow and it should pull it up. Okay, here it is. Oh, great. This doesn't make any sense to me. It's not really helpful. I need to put this in a different order. And I forgot the title of the object. So you can go back to manage my displays. Again, if you kind of forget the name, you can search up here, but we've only got a couple on this. So click on the little page to say edit. Back to display list. So the good thing is with all the stuff here, you can move these around to reorder them. So we want our object identifier first. That object lot wasn't what I thought it was, so I'm going to move that back and get rid of it. So that's off and it's back over the available information. Now I want to find object title before I forget, because I definitely wanted that. I know it makes people's eyes cross when I'm scrolling on here. So object titles, perfect. So I actually want to fit that right in behind identifier. And you know what else I want is object titles alternates too, for purposes of this. So we're going to put that there. Whoops, I want it up here. Credit line, we're going to put down here. The thumbnail, I actually like having those right at the beginning. Dates up here. Dimensions I'm going to put down at the bottom and have object status there. and then credit lines last. So you can hit save again. Go back to that everything search. Now this kind of makes a little bit more sense when you're looking at it. So it's easy enough to change if you go in and you're like, this is not making the sense that I want it to. You can go back and change it around. So it's more, so it's a little more easily read or understood. So, we don't have a lot of media representation in this because we're in the sandbox. We've got the object identifier, the title, the alternate titles to see what somebody else had put in as that. Any of the dates are here now, what the date of the object manufacturer created, plus the date of alteration, all kinds of stuff here. Object status, this is really good to know, especially if you're going through new materials or something. So all of these are accessioned. So that's the field from that last to admin info page. And here's your dimensions too, if you have them in. And its dimensions are a work in progress. A lot of this data is from, is like faux data, but from Fairfield, but nothing that was really cleaned up. So some of it doesn't make sense, but that's also a really good way for you to like spot things that are weird in your system. Go back to the top. Now I've also got credit line. So we're not seeing a lot of credit lines in this one, but it's perfect if you're going through and looking to see if if you have a proper credit line for something that you need to put in. The one other thing that we might want to do, back to manage my displays. Is I want to see the related entities. Entity related entities up here. And I'm going to put that down by the credit line. So there's probably, oh, there's some people in here. You can also, as you're looking at this, you probably already know this from just looking at the spreadsheet view in general. Any of these up here that have the underline on them, you can use to click to sort. So you can do sorting in two different ways. So you can click on this to sort by a field, or when you click on display options, up here is the sort by that you can pick any of the options up there. I hate sort by relevance. It's never anything that I need, but it's one of the things that it usually defaults to for some reason. But just for kicks, we're going to say sort by title. Just click that again. I don't know why man's doublet comes ahead of candlestick, but okay. Did I sort by title? Still doing it. Who knows? Okay. So you see your related entities and your credit line and all that here. Yes, Kepi's asking, one thing they need is to have information about the artist creator of an object, and is that an option? So Kepi, are you looking for just to know who the person is, or do you need like a bio of that person included? Just name, yeah. It would come up actually under that related entities. It would come up just as somebody that was related to the thing as the creator. Let me get a Fairfield and see. I think I've got something that's similar that you can see how it shows up. And this is the bad side of having 18 million displays created, because you have to remember what does what. Honestly, the exhibit label is probably just the best example of what I've got. We can rebuild one over on this side too, so you can see it. Oh, except I didn't put any people in here. Oh, I did. So related entities is here, and you can see created by Millie Rose Madrick. I'm going to sort by related entities so you can actually see more people. So here you've got created by all these people here. I'm fairly certain for some reason, now I need to remember how to do this because you can limit it by just created by, as opposed to like donor or something like that. Actually, let me go into this display. Good, I'm glad that's what you need. Yep, you can totally do that. So also when you go to something like, rather than the list view, if you go to this like full one, which is kind of like a card view almost, which I don't use a lot, but you'll get that here usually, because if I don't have like people in these first few. Of course, I don't have any created by these. In theory, it would come up under here with the person's name. Let's actually go to back to the manage my displays. I think we were in exhibit labels with accession number. I thought we were in a different exhibit labels. Let me see what that one does. Make sure it's got what I'm looking for in it. And we used from one of our exhibits, we used that for creating some of our labels and just kind of put them in Word and kind of reformatted and added text and stuff there. Oh, that was the one. Exhibit labels with accession numbers. Perfect. So we're going to go look at that one. Oh, right, that's what I did. Okay, so under here, so you've got the dates, we've got our related entities. If you click on the little I, the little information thing here, you can further refine your selection. So this is where you would pick that you just want to see created by for like your purposes, Kepi, that you don't care about any of the other things, you just want that. You don't want donor owned or anything like that. I think in this case too, just for kicks, I'm going to think I can put, so if you hold down, much like selecting things anywhere, if you hold down control, click created by, published by, is the published, I think we would kind of count as that too. So we can click more than one thing as well. So it's also, if you're doing this for a registrar list and you want to know who the donor was and who originally owned it, you could go through and click donor owned by, previous owned by, any of that. Oh, I'm going to put attributed to as well for purposes of this. Gives you other options down here if you want to restrict to types of individual or organization. Other stuff there, order of the hierarchy. I haven't messed with any of the other ones. I have used this, but I haven't really done much with the other one. And then when you're done, you want to hit the little arrow to kind of put that box back, hit save, always hit save. So now we've also got created by and published by on that list there. So you've got both of them. So that should kind of cover all the bases. And like I said, if you wanted to just do a some kind of accessions registrar list or something, you can from there too. And anytime if you're looking for something and you're not finding it and you think you need one of those things, just let me know, just email me, because if I don't know how to do it, I can putz around a little bit or look a little bit further to find out, but I should be able to figure it out for you. Okay. So I think other things that you can use. Oh, I've done entities the other day as well. So I'm going to look at exhibitions for a second, then we'll do entities. Same concept with all of it. Oh, actually, one thing I did want to mention on that first. Hold on. The other part of that, so aside from the display or the summary, when you can download the PDF, you can also, here's your export tools up here. So you can use whatever display to get your export tools there. So I'm going to change this again because I find this really useful for if I'm pulling objects for an exhibition. I've got a location confirmation list. I've got a couple location lists. I had a plain location, then realized it would be useful to actually know what the thing was that I was looking for if it didn't have a picture. So I added the description in the list down here. So this will give me, actually does give me an image for this, the identifier, the title, the current location, and any other related storage locations. This is useful for me, and I'm telling people useful for me stuff in case it relates to any of the way that your institution works. We've gone through 3 moves in the last 10 years. So most of the time people were great and it's really, really well documented. But sometimes the most recent move to like our new current building, like didn't get in there. And it'll still have an old location, and I'll kind of go through and do some detective work and see where it used to be and if it's still near any of those objects. Because if something was packed together, we had a certain, like all of the kitchen objects were all together, it might be nearby somewhere. So in this one, you've got all this information, great. Sometimes hard to take the system with you, even though it's on the cloud. If you go somewhere, if I had to go look at stuff at Ogden House, I don't have Wi-Fi out there. So if we want to export this, like your other ones, I've never done the label one. I haven't used labels yet. Download results as pull down, TAD delimited, comment delimited. Those are more technical computery ones if you need a certain report in a certain computer language for it. But then we've got spreadsheet, Excel, word processing doc, and PDF checklist or PDF thumbnails, which is just very much of a thumbnail look. I'm going to go with spreadsheet, the X or the arrow. And it'll take a second because I think I did it with like a million objects. And I'm gonna have to change my screen share too, but you'll see it kind of come up in the bottom as like this has been exported. You can see my little circles still working at the top. Remind me to do a smaller set of objects next time. Actually, stop that and go to a smaller set of objects. I'm just going to go to one of the exhibitions that I know has good objects and locations in. So just ignore me while I get there. Okay. Say I was pulling objects for Alice. So export spreadsheet. And there it is down there. See much faster the smaller grouping of objects. So just something to know too, if you're looking to ever run a report with a bajillion objects attached, it's going to take a while. Just going to open that, reshare my screen. Yep, I just lost my other one. Hold on. Did this to me the other day again too. I don't know why. It doesn't like something in that report, and I don't know what. If you ever try to run a report and it doesn't like it and it freaks out, call me and let me know. We can see what's going on. Because it's not liking Excel, and I don't know if it's, and I've actually never run it like this on here. But I don't know why it wouldn't like it. Okay, we're going to pretend that worked and it opened in Excel. Let's see if I have any old ones. Okay, there we go. We have old one from the other day, which is weird because it worked then. So in theory, if that worked, it would come out looking like this. And that'll give you the wherewithal to change anything however you want in Excel, modify it a little bit, move things around, be able to print it out on a screen, you know, hide a column if you want, just to make it more workable. Anything you wanted to kind of get it to be able to get a handheld version to take with you into storage if you needed to do that. That's just a little bit of manipulation with Excel, and it's, I would much rather kind of manipulate it the way I wanted to that than trying to use something that's not ordered or formatted the way that I wanted it to be. So also, if you ended up doing like the PDF checklist, you can also sort it before you do this. So if you wanted to try to sort by object name or number or something like that, you can do that. So here's like the PDF version, if you just needed to run down to compare a bunch of stuff and do it that way. A little bit more hard to read, but it still has like the main storage locations and related locations and all of that in it. Okay. This was super handy to be able to do this for cleaning up our entities and just for comparing entities or for checking duplication. So you can do, let me go into the entities. Actually, let me do it in the sandbox because I know there's weird ones in here. If you just wanted to look at all your entities all together. So we've got a couple things in here like this. We've got Mr. Clifford S. Banks and Clifford S. Banks. If you want to be able to view people a little bit differently or by organization, you can change things here. Display options for this, I have test entity, and that's about it. If we wanted to create a new display for entities, same thing as with the objects. And so we don't have any here yet, so you can do new display for entities. Click the plus. We'll do it as a system display for the sake of this too. Yes. Click save. So now these are all your entity related fields. Sometimes there are crossover fields from other modules, but only in a couple places where there'll be like a related thing, like up here, collection related up here. We're not going to do collections right now. So we're going to go entity identifier just for kicks, which isn't really something we totally need to use. We're going to go names, alternate names, which is really good for searching married names, like women's married names. Let's go gender and life dates. Actually, let me put this up next to these guys and click save here. Go back to our entities again and go to our first last name sort here. So now we've got a little bit more information. We've got the entity names, life dates, gender on there. I thought I added something else, didn't I? Maybe I did not. Sorry, I'm just moving us around a little bit here. So you can also do up here your sort. You can sort by display name, forename, identifier, gender, life dates. Oh, I did. I put, oh, no, life dates are there. Okay. So we want to sort by surname, forename. So it's not going to change it, whatever your display is, but you'll get it sorted in that direction. So we've got these guys, which will probably be the same, so we can figure it out. We've got down here a John Bigelow and a John Bigelow Jr. Oh, and we can see their different life dates. So it is a different person as opposed to somebody just not adding the junior in or something like that. So it's kind of a good way to check on that in that way. We had for a while been putting, I'm sure you guys have a lot of too, we have a lot of duplicate names that are actually different people, but it's just the family naming everybody the same thing. What we ended up starting to do, I can use it for Bugs Bunny, is putting like the birthday in parentheses at the end in display, in the display section. So it was easier to see. I thought I had somebody like right on the first page, and this might have been in Fairfield. It just made it like a really easier to reference things, so we knew whether it was the grandfather or the grandson at quick view versus having to like look at a whole list like this and figure it out. This was also handy when you can see that gender's not been filled in. I mostly like to fill that in because of weird oldie-timey names. That you don't know which is which, and it makes it really much more clear for clothing from back in the day. Right now, the only options are, let me find a person. Right now, the only options are straight out male, female, or unknown. Who knows, at some point we may expand that. Pretty much I'm fine with this right now since we're looking so historically at stuff. And if anybody has other suggestions of what to put in or what we can do, we can always update this later on, because as with anything with this system, it's not totally set in stone. I can't think of any really good names now. I know for one at my old museum, our portrait, there was a portrait of Romanta Woodruff. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a lovely name. This woman is probably wearing a fabulous dress, and I know what to look for on the art racks. Yeah, it was a man's name. Romantic was a man. Who knew? So it was much easier to find him when I went down to the portrait racks and was looking for a guy in a suit versus some woman in a fancy dress from the, late 1700s or something. Also helpful for addressing correspondence and stuff. If you know what that is and want to put it in for your staff. If you have some kind of an odd name, or even just names that you're unsure, like, Chris or Jesse or anything like that. It's very helpful. I had a really good oldie timey name the other day. I wish I could remember what it was. That was like is that what? But so it helps you see stuff like that. Okay. Any questions so far on displays from anybody? And I'll show you one more thing, and then we can take a quick break and then come back and we'll go over sets. So the one other thing is, I'll show you on Fairfield because I have more options, I think. So when you're in your displays, much like I said when was talking about having it visible for the whole system or just you, it's a good, I don't even remember what this one was. Let's see. So actually, just for kicks, we'll go into loan process. Whatever this report is. I don't even remember. I have just a bunch of different stuff. Okay, like where it is. So right now it is a system display. But if, for instance, you didn't need this to gum up the lists for your educators or researchers or whoever else is using it, you can take off system display, but you still wanted your curator to be able to see it. So down here is the user access and the group access. So you can add individual users down here. I'll add Chelsea. Because I want my curator to be able to see where we are in a grant project. And I'm going to add my curatorial assistant because I want him to be able to see too, so we can plan for the exhibition. So down here, you can also change this. So I can edit and I can read. I'm going to let Chelsea edit and read. I'm just going to let Alec read because he doesn't need to edit anything in the loans. So then we can click save. And all those people have access. So without having the system on, the whole system, my educators won't be able to see it, but the staff can see it. The other way to do this is group access under here. So our group, we have a couple different ones created. There was one I created a while ago, and we actually kind of discovered this by accident. And this is the same for sets as well. We discovered this by accident because one of us is like, well, I created this display. Like, I don't understand why you can't see it. Like, no, I can't see it. I don't find it anywhere because we hadn't given them access to it. So they were unable to see it. So group access here, I've got Fairfield admins. So we had created for our little exhibition team, we had Lori, Beth, and myself. So it was just us that were in there. And I put us in the Fairfield admins group. So I didn't have to go in and add everybody individually every single time. Let me go to the sandbox for a second. Any of the objects things. Let's do this one. So group access, I put in just me as a manager yesterday. I created one yesterday for volunteers, or the other day for volunteers. Unless I did it in mine, that's possible. So if you've got like 18 million volunteers, you don't necessarily have to give each single individual volunteer access to somebody. You can just have them in that volunteer group and give all of those volunteers access. Oh, I did do it in Fairfield. Okay. So volunteers. For this, I don't want them, so I can put no access or can read. I want just them to read, so that's fine. Click save. So now you can really control who's able to use what displays and things there. You know, and again, it's not really, it's going to be the same information that they'll be seeing usually anyway. It's just a matter of like whether it gums up the works when you have a whole list of stuff, whether when you're trying to pull out a display, and this is probably for advanced, like volunteers or other people, whether you're coming up with a whole list like this, or if you're just coming up with a nice, oh, let's see, I'm gonna go to this guy. Or if you're just coming up with a nice short list versus having to sort through a whole long thing. Because inevitably too, like some of the names that you come up with won't necessarily mean anything except to you. So having that long list, you're like, no, look at this display, it'll be more helpful. And they'll be like, but there's all these things. So more useful for that. Okay, so any questions for anybody about that? Everybody's good. Let's take a quick 5-minute break in case anyone needs more water, anything else. I'm going to refill mine again. The bad part about working from home when I have no air conditioning. So let's take a break. I am going to pause the recording and see everybody back in 5 minutes, if that works. Okay, so, oh, another quick note as I'm looking at our list here is this is a good way to see if you've still got people split in as like Mr. and Mrs. or something like that, that you want to split out and you want to deal with later on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sets. A lot of people may already have used sets or you've already dealt with them. I'm just going to kind of go over them again because it kind of fits in really well with the display aspect of this. And both of these are really great for exhibition planning, honestly, if you're doing exhibitions, whether it's on a grand scale or a small scale or anything like that. So we're going to go back and just get back into objects again. I'm going to do this in Fairfield and actually I'm going to do this in the sandbox because I'm where I want to be in Fairfield for my good set to use. Okay, so sets are a way of basically artificially pulling stuff together to create a group of objects. So it's not a formal collection. It's more just a grouping of stuff for you for purposes of whatever you want, whether it's planning an exhibition, comparing and contrasting the same types of materials, pulling together all of your ceramics all together so you don't have to search every time. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it and pretty much for whatever you can think of. So if you're pulling up and there's a couple different ways to create sets, as with anything, the system, there's a couple different ways to do anything, which is good. And it's good once you get to know it, you can figure out what you need and figure out the best way to go about it. So say, for instance, we are doing an exhibition on trinket boxes. I was going to say dolls, but dolls are creepy. So I don't want to scare everybody. So over here on the left-hand side, so this is just your regular list view in objects from searching objects. We're going to go over to set tools here. When you click on that, you'll have a couple different options open up of adding checked to a set, which is already created, or you can create a set here. And you'll notice when you see the create set, It already has the asterisk because that was the last thing that we searched. So it just automatically says that. So you can either leave it if it makes sense to you or just change that name down there. So we're going to say trinket box exhibit for now. So you can either here create it from the results or from checked. So if you were specifically searching for a group of things, you got everything up that you wanted, you can just create the set from that. But if you want to do it bit by bit and go down the list, you can check out these little teeny tiny boxes over here. So we're going to check out this one, these guys. I'm fascinated that so many of those came. We're not going to do a parasol exhibit. That so many of these came from Fairfield. I don't know we had that many trinket boxes. So now we've got a bunch of them checked. We're going to hit create, and you'll get this little note saying create set trinket box exhibit with 759 objects because I did not change it from results to checked. So if you need to do just checked, you can do that. There. So if you need to change anything in your set, you can go, because it's the same idea as the display. So manage my sets. You'll have a choice of all sets, public presentations, or user sets, or sets by user. So you can look all those up. I just usually go all sets. It's easier. If you went in, you only wanted to see yours, you can do that. So this is what the display looks like of your created sets so far. We don't have that many done in the sandbox yet. So it just tells you the name, what the content type is, that it's objects, that it's a user set. We're going to skip that for a second, other than to say there's 759 objects in it. It was created by me. It's not accessible to the public, and its status is new. Right now, when we do the public portal upgrade this year, we will have grouping so you can make sets public. It sort of works now. Westpac went in, Westport Public Art Group went in and has a couple galleries, like sets of stuff in there of specific groupings of items. I tried it with Fairfield and it didn't work, so I think it's just a different version, but once we get the new system up, it'll work for everybody. So if you want to highlight a particular artist or highlight an exhibit or something like that, you'll be able to add that in. So like we just did our John Taylor Arms exhibit a few months ago, so we could put in like our John Taylor Arms collection and put it up there as like a gallery thing. Actually, we can look at it really quick too. For future planning. So if you click on gallery, right now you've got these two from Westpac. Comics and Cartooning Westport, Mississippi, 1964. It gives you a little bit of a blurb about the topic, and then you could go in and view the gallery, and it gives you all the things that they have attached to it. So it'll look a little bit different, but same idea. You'll have the related person and stuff in. So it'll look a little bit cleaner and a little different, but same idea when that gets done. But right now, just everything not accessible to the public is automatic, especially if you're just working on something for a maybe exhibit at some point down the road. Some trinket box. So this has the 18 million different things that I just added. If you wanted to get rid of stuff in here, you can just click the X's and they'll go away. I'm not going to click all of those and sit here and do 754. I think you can bulk get rid of things, but I wouldn't necessarily try it. I would just create a new set and get rid of one. Odd image in the columns mean. Kepi, in this view or in the other one? Hold on. Let me go back. Oh, the little magic wand. I was getting to a little magic wand. We can talk about the little magic wand. I was just gonna say, I don't think you can immediately do it. So if you do what I just did, accidentally added 759 things that you didn't want, I would just delete that set and start again. Just to delete only the set, like the set name, not anything else. You can click that delete and it'll get rid of that there. So I'm going to try it again, see if I can do it the right way. So set tools again. So I'm going to click these guys. It was like 8 of them or something. Not even. Put that toolbar box in there too. Why not? That's fine. So now I'm going to say from checked and hit create. And now it says it just added 5 objects. So now we can go back over to the manage my sets. Here's our trinket box with our 5 items. So the weird little thing right there, this is actually a magic wand. So you can either click it from here and it says batch on it, or you can go into the edit the whole set and you still have your magic wand here. What the magic wand is, it batch processes any of the items, all of the items in your set. It's a fantastic tool. It is a very dangerous tool, so be careful when you're doing this. Yes, Lori, I can see your face. It's like perfect. Yes, it's wise to be nervous. I've used it successfully and it's been fabulous and it's worked wonderfully, but you just have to be very certain of what you're doing. It's not something I would say to one of the volunteers, like go batch edit that bunch of stuff, because you know, it's stuff that you can go back and fix kind of, but you'd have to go back and fix everything. But if you wanted to batch edit, so if you click this, I've usually done it if I'm adding like the exhibition title to a bunch of individual records, like at the end of an exhibit. So when you click on that, you get to kind of what looks like your regular screen of your pages. So you have all your regular choices of your pages over on the left-hand side. You have kind of in the order of where they are, object identifier, title, alternate title, all that stuff down here, exhibition label. So at the end of this, you'll say in batch, do not use, add to each item, replace values, remove all values. So if I want to say add to each item, I'm going to say, I'm adding the exhibition label to all of those images. So there's our exhibit. We're putting it at our old Fairfield building. It's opening up 1st of August and going to the 1st of December. So that's there. So now when I click on that, if I want to say execute batch edit, it'll come up and say, you're applying this to 5 objects. Are you really sure? This cannot be undone. It can be if you go into each individual record and delete stuff, but that's kind of it. You can't like necessarily bulk dig that out easily. So it's just an extra like, are you really sure this is what you want to do? It's also a good way to make sure you're like, oh yeah, only my 5 objects. So it doesn't come up and say, you're applying this to 10,000 objects. So execute batch edit. It comes up with a little processing status, super quick, works great. Also great if you have a new system and you haven't, you need to tag something with your institution's stuff on it, something like that. Actually, I can show you that in a second. You can perform another batch edit here or change anything else or go into stuff. So perform another batch edit. So admin info, collection source, we're gonna add to each item. And this is like some of the museums that are already in there. So for the collection source, we're gonna say Fairfield. So we're gonna make sure that those are all Fairfield. So if like everything in your system, you know, is your institution, but this isn't marked, you can go through and do all of yours all at once. Or the other part is if you wanted to change accessible to the public or not, you can do that here as well. So if you have 10,000 objects in your collection and you want to run a report that has anything with media you want to have accessible to the public, then you can do a batch set and just make all of this accessible to the public as opposed to like clicking through 10,000 objects. I'm not going to do this one right now. It doesn't work with this anyway. So we're going to execute the batch edit for making those bare fields. So now if we go into our trinket boxes, when we go down to the bottom, now I see my exhibition label, which is just the exhibit thing is down here. And if I go to admin info at the end, collection sources fair fields. So you can use that for instead of going through hand by hand stuff. But again, you know, be careful, like think it through and make sure you're doing what you want to do. I will show you one other thing that I will basically say don't use, but just so you know what it is and you don't click on it just because. Manage my sets. I think I covered it in the and put it in the manual, so it should be in there. So we're going to do the trinket box guy again. So up here with magic wand, you'll see this dark black box and you'll see more options. When this comes up, you get with the bomb, delete all records in the set. This does not just take the records out of the set, it literally deletes the record from the whole system. So like I had a bunch of deaccessioned posters that somehow they got duplicated records in the system. It was something with the posters, I don't remember what it was, but it was duplicated records of things already in there. So I wasn't deleting the records just because they were deaccessioned, I was deleting duplicated deaccessioned records. That little bomb will blow up everything in that set. And like the actual record, not just get rid of it from the set. It seems like it would get rid of it from the set. It just blows them all up. The one that's a little more useful is the set type for records in the set. I know when our migration came over, a lot of our photos weren't in as still images, they were in as objects. So I could, once I searched those and pulled them all together, I could change their type to still image or something. So it's good if you've got a bulk stuff that you need to do. If you can search and pull them together, it's handy. Again, the bomb is red and a bomb for, just be careful. Close options. To go back to this, to the manage. Let's see it in this. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so your list of your set. So there's here you can change type directly from that, from user set to public presentation. Now this says duplicate this user set. And there's a duplicate items in this set and add to the current set. One of these, I need to play with this a little bit more because one of them, and I can never remember which one, actually literally duplicates the object records. So you'll have two trinket box X 1995, 85 AC. So you don't want to necessarily duplicate records, but I know it's really useful to be able to duplicate a set. So you have like your initial set, and then you have like, okay, I want to see what we initially picked, but then I want another set that has those items, but refined down to whatever you want. And I think it's that one, but I need to get back to that and look at it in the, put that in the manual so everybody can see it, because I know this has come up a couple times. So I wouldn't duplicate sets at this point. If you really need to, like, call me and let me know and we can play with it. I mean, in this, we're in the sandbox, so it wouldn't really matter. Oh, like in current, that was where it is too. Current set, new set, it's weird. It's not 100% clear. Let's see. So sets are super useful for stuff like getting ready for collections, like I said, or exhibitions, like I said. This is one of the instances. So once you create your set, we're back in objects, we're over in Fairfields. in the search objects. So you've got your history of searches, your saved searches, and your search by set. So under search by set, these are all the sets that we've got right now going in Fairfield. And I know some of them I can get rid of because I don't need them anymore. It was for old projects or something, or exhibitions that didn't happen. So we've got I've got our Alice in Museum Land is what we were putting stuff together for, and our Alice batch edit that I was doing something with that for. Let's use batch edit because I don't need her anymore. And then pick one of them and then click the arrow. And it works for a second. Spins, there we go. So we've got 42 objects in this. So in this set, this is what we'll usually do at our place is when we're getting ready for an exhibit, we'll make a set, and that allows a bunch of us to go in and add things to that set as we're going through objects and trying to figure stuff out, what needs to be added. And then we can get together, look at them, and be like, nope, we don't want that one, get rid of it. Moving on to some of the other ones. It's a good way of just kind of being able to see everything all together and get an idea of like where things are, how they'll behave together, and that kind of thing. Obviously helpful if you have images. If you don't, it still gives you a list to start off with. So we would go down this and go through these guys and add them in. So if you wanted to say, decide that you don't want this image in there for whatever. So you can go, rather than going back to my sets into this set to get rid of something, the other way to do that is go here into the record. It's actually down in admin info and has related sets here. So you can either add a set, add this into a set, or get rid of a set here, and it will get rid of it from the other end. So like, for instance, I don't remember what this collection source set is, so I don't think we need it. So I'm going to just take this out of here and just click that. So it's no longer part of that set. Click save, and then it's those. So if we wanted to add a relationship, say we wanted to use this for our floral exhibition thing, we can click on one of those and it'll pull up any of your sets that you have. It'll pull up that, you can click save and I'll add it to that set automatically. So it's all kind of a depending where you're coming from. If you're looking at that list of search things and you just want to click through and add stuff, or if you come across a record and are like, oh, I really need to add that, then you can do that. I'm trying to think. I was looking for something the other day. Really have over 100 objects that have the word apple in it. You can also, as you're pulling up your things, oh, so if we want to, let's go back to Alice for a second. So we have 44 objects. If we wanted to say, wait, what are just the physical objects? I don't care about the images. I just want the physical objects. You can use your refine results, your filter here, and go into types and just click physical objects. So I've got 40 physical objects. So it pulled out the still images and whatever the other thing was. So you can kind of sort things around that way. You can clear all from here. And it gets you back to what you had. And you can filter by exhibition. I'm guessing there's just one. Oh no, these, okay. So some of these objects were in other exhibitions as well. So we want to say, wait, what was also in Family Connections Telling Our Stories? There are 3 objects in that. Oh, these 3, okay, that's cool. Which is kind of fun. So let me go back to, we'll go back to Sandbox for a second. I always feel like I need more objects in the sandbox so I can do more stuff with it. Okay, so just did a random search. We're pulling all these up. I'm going to do set tools, and I'm going to create a set from Jennings, because that's what I searched for. I'm going to say from the results. You can also, this little open set for batch editing, like if you know you're intentionally going into batch edit something at the same time, you can check that off and it'll go right into batch edit. So we're going to create, I've got 15 objects in there, great. Now we're going to create an exhibition. Kefi, yes. Let me go back to that in a second, because I totally know what you mean. So I'm going to create an exhibition for next year that's going to be trinket boxes, even though that's not what I searched for, but that's fine. We're just going to save that for now. Go back over here. Oh, I wanted to get this into the exhibition. I can't remember how I did it the other day, because I only do this like once or twice a year. It's really annoying. I just did this the other day because I was adding the whole set into an exhibition. I can't remember how to do it. It's too hot. It's starting to melt. So I'm linking to Kepi's question. So Kepi said she finds when she's working in a set and go into an object record within the set, you have a hard time navigating back to the set efficiently. Actually, your history should help with that in theory. Let me go into a set and see if we can get back. Oh, this was a good one. So we were in that set for shoes, whatever that was. So we're in the record, and you want to go back to the set. Do you mean pull up the group of objects again, or go into that, like my sets display list? Because if you want to just go back to that group of records, you should be able to go up to history up here, because it does keep sets in the history. So you should be able to go back to this, although it's just got that trinket box. It doesn't have the shoes one in it, which is interesting. Let's see if I can go in and out of it to see if it'll work. Oh, actually, I wonder if that's even there, if it was showing up before. Oh, that's funny, because I don't see that. I wonder if we deleted that one, but it still has kind of a listing. Let me do it in Fairfield, because sometimes the sandbox isn't quite up with where our system is. So there's a couple little things in there that may not be the same. Search by set. Let me do something random. Oh, let me do our 3rd grade Culture Connect thing. Oh, but I'm not getting sets in this one. Okay, you know what? Let me see if that's something I can turn on, because I feel like I've used it before. And unless it wants me to go here, which would be weird. I don't think we had one on that one. I can go into that set because I don't need that anymore. Let me go into this Bridgeport costume history class one. So if you're in the set and you go into something, you can always go back over this way, but that's not in the full record. You can click on it to get to the full record there. And okay, so I think if you go into sets by the My Sets thing, it'll show up in history and you can get back into it this way. So I mean, the thing is maybe to go into My Sets to kind of get it into your history. And then you might be able to do it a little bit easier rather than doing it solely from the object find object part. I wonder if there's a way to turn that on now, because I think that would be much handier. Yeah, I think to get it into the history part of it, you need to go into the My Sets part. So still a little bit clunky. Maybe you'll see if there's something we can do about getting it added. If you're in a set this way, it'll do it, but it kind of is a weird way around it. It's not really in that section. But yeah, I totally know what you mean when you get stuck and you're like, I want to go back to the stuff. If you're in like this and you already had your stuff pulled up, you can just go up to click results. And I mean, that'll get you back into your list of objects that way. So if that's just what you're looking to do, is be able to get back and see them that way, you can. And that's one of those, it's really tiny and doesn't look like you can click on it, but you can click on that results and get the full set. And that's kind of with everything, anytime you do a search or any of the different things. It's bugging me how to put the objects into an exhibition because I just did it on Monday for the other group, but I didn't record Monday. Okay. I feel like there's something else I want to talk about sets, but I can't remember what it was. I mean, you can basically use sets for a lot of different things. Like I had used it for like a lot of these. We're still in Fairfield. We're going to go back to display options and go back to our list. I think it was one of these. It was more of a registrar kind of thing that I was looking to find out. Might have just been dates. Or if there were other identifiers. So if you wanted to go in, oh, actually, this is a good, I think I have a deaccession. Deaccession to review. This is a good one. So I had a bunch of deaccessioned items to review. I have since whittled that list down, but I know I've got a deaccession thing in here, proposed deaccession report. So I wanted to include the identifier, the data deaccession, the representation, the object title, dates, credit line, related entities, something that I would have all the information that I needed to pass to the board or the committee and then the board to go through the formal process. So they ended up getting, I think something like Word document. Yeah, they ended up getting something like that. Oh, you guys can't see that. Hold on, let me share. They ended up getting something like this. And, you know, however you want to format it, you can use any of those different report things on there to do it. So this is something that they would say, okay, this is on the deaccession list, full explanation of what it was for them to approve and what the reason for deaccession was, things like that. This one we didn't have a picture of. So just a lot of different ways that you can use between the sets and the reports to do a lot of different things in here. Which is one of those reasons why I have such a long list of weird reports. Does anyone have any questions about any of that stuff? Oh, I will say this is one thing I want to get back to. This is kind of tangential to this, but something we were talking about before with the access, user access and stuff with the groups and individuals. So that's assigned when in somebody's user access. Let me go to the sandbox. So if we go to manage access control, which anybody that has that should only be like system administrators for that. If you need to have a cataloger or somebody have more control over stuff, I would create a new level of access role versus just giving them the administrator access, because it can cause issues if they do something wrong, because that basically has access to do anything. So right now our access roles, this is the sandbox. So we're played around with a couple different things. Most everybody will have administrators, catalogers, and researchers. And there may be a user content moderator. That's for the public portal part. If we have people able to log in on their own. So if you needed to create another level, if you're like there, we created a volunteer level the other day, which was really like locked down and doesn't have a lot of stuff that it can do. So if you go in here, the access roles are very, very granular, which is great, but you really have to like be in the mood and focus to go through everything, because there's all these little tiny checkboxes to go through and look for. Mostly what I did when we were doing the volunteer one the other day was making sure that anything that said delete next to it was not checked. Like for this one, we can say, yeah, sure, they can set their personalization preferences. They can use the search builder. They can, we don't want them to create displays or edit displays or delete displays. That's fine. We definitely don't want them to batch import anything or batch change anything. But you can go through and check all that off. So that's just kind of overviews of sections. Then you go into the, just for kicks, we'll hit save on that so it doesn't yell. We'll go into the metadata. And this controls field by field, literal field by field access. So in volunteer, get back in there for a second. In metadata, we wanted them to have read edit access to like all of the main general object information. And you can toggle this at the top of the column on or off. So we wanted them to be able to do everything on that. That's fine. Object lots, they don't need that, so we can do no access. And we just kind of went all the way down, like, and entities, We wanted them to be able to read things, but we didn't want them to be able to see the address. So we took away the access to that. So you can do really, really granular things like that if you're going to create a new level. But again, like I said, this is where you really need to go through like a fine-tooth comb with stuff. And sometimes it's a trial and error of you saying you want them to do something. They're like, oh, I can't do that. I don't even see that. Oh, okay. Let me go in and check your access. You may not be able to see it for that. So back to the other user login, user group. So this is the overall access roles. User logins are the, so the individual logins are here. So we're gonna use our test person, TED tester I created the other day. So this is all, you know, the regular information that you've probably seen before if you've been creating users, whether you can activate or unactivate the account. So the roles and the groups are assigned here. So in the groups for the sandbox, we've got catalogers, everyone, and we're gonna make TED part of the exhibit team as well. So then anytime we can add that, even though he's listed as a volunteer for the overall role. So we're going to save that. So here are the actual user groups here: administrators, catalogers, everyone, exhibition team. So that's what it was. I created volunteer as a access role here, but I didn't do the group yet. So we can do group here. So if you wanted to do a new group, we're going to create our volunteers here. I'm just going to say ball. You can put whatever note in there that you want to leave for somebody to see it. So we're going to hit save. Let me just go back to this for 1 second. So anybody who will say that anybody that's a volunteer is going to be part of this volunteer group. So Ted, we should be, you know, he's already a volunteer here. We're going to also add him to the volunteer there. So that that's one thing I didn't say when you go back to manage sets. As I'm making sure I'm still in the sandbox. I don't want to do stuff in Fairfield that I have to undo later. Oops. Go to all sets. So this trinket box exhibition and the basic info part. This is where we want to set our user access down here. The cool thing about this one too, so we want to say volunteers. Oh, because I'm a user, I want group. Volunteers. I want TED here. So the cool thing about this for the sets too is you can do the same thing, like has no access or can read or can edit. So you can actually literally lock someone out of a set. They can't see it at all. And you can also say for a period of time and say has no access for this, or can edit just for a period of time. Oops. And same thing for group access. So you can just say can read. But you want all of your admins to be able to do everything. So that's where you can save the individual. That's it is very important to set those for sets, which I meant to emphasize earlier, because much like the displays, but even more so, like you won't be able to see them unless you set the availability for that. And that was definitely the main thing when I set it for displays, which was accurate, but more so for sets. We had our curator was like, well, I created a set. And the librarian was like, well, I created a set too. And I'm sitting going, I can't see either one of these. I have no idea what you're talking about, because they never added us in as being editors. So we were looking down this whole list of sets to be able to go in and start going through this exhibition stuff. And we didn't add ourselves as, being able to edit or read anything. So we couldn't see it. So anytime you need to add a set, make sure you go in and set it up so that people can see it. And that's an easy thing too. If you're putting stuff together for an exhibition, you want the educators to see it, but not edit. So you can edit, like set your educator group has access to read. But then you're done with their review. They're okay. You're going to move on with the exhibition. You don't want any more input. So you can just take them off of that. So they won't be able to see it anymore. So there's a lot of, manipulation of all of this information that you can do to get things to work for you. So does anybody have any questions about any of that? Or do you have any questions about anything in general that you want to go over and talk about? Not necessarily on this topic. I love that I've apparently covered everything so thoroughly that nobody has any questions. Oh, Kathy has a question. Good. She's in the chat. Is there a way to customize the fields that show up when searching objects to make a set? Again, having the creator infos. Same thing, Kathy, with the display. Just create a display. So when you go in to do the set and you're pulling everything up, just make sure you're on that display. Does that make sense? Is that what you're meaning? Or when just for searching? Okay, yep, you can do that. And if you're searching for, say you just want something that's published by somebody when you're searching, I would use that. I think we did the new search in one of the office hours, so you can go back and look at it if you didn't come to that one. So if we go into find objects, so if we do the search builder here, this is where you can do really defined searches. So you can add a rule for this. And again, this is kind of knowing your field names, and sometimes it's a little fussy because it involves so many choices. So we're looking for related entities. And I just saw them the other day and they're in a weird spot. Oh, related entities. I want display name. Or if you can do it this way, you may have to go and do it through entities to say if you wanted to find something that was only published by somebody and not like created by somebody, you could go through and do it. I think you have to do that by entities, but then you can link to the objects that have them come up. Am I in Fairfield? I'm in Fairfield. Let's go to entities and do search builder from here. And this is definitely kind of a going through and playing with stuff to see what's available. Entity type. I want entity role though. Or type role, something like that. See published, but that's not quite. I'm looking for it, I don't think. So there should be a way to search for somebody by just being like the identity. Oh, identity type. Geez, it's right there. No, it's individual. Notice, no. Let me look at that because there should be a way to search by role and see, you can pull up anybody that published something or something like that. But then having it display is again that display, or having it be able to show up in what you're looking at is making sure it's available in the display. Make a note that I want to look up search by role. I know I had a plain exhibition label over here, but I do need the one with the numbers. Yeah, so this would be just an exhibition or a display thing of putting in your roles over here. And if you needed it in a different format and a different view, you know, then you just have to kind of do a little more fussing with it and figure out exactly what you want. And if you're partway there and you're not getting it to act exactly how you want it to, just let me know and we can fuss with a little bit more and do some more detailed stuff with it to see if we can get it to do exactly what you need. I mean, there's some formatting that's going to be in the system that's just going to be the way it comes out. Like in this full display thing. This is kind of what it's going to look like. It's going to have that placeholder for the image. It's going to have these underlying things in this. That's more of a system-wide thing than just that you can't really control the display. You can control what's there, but you can't control the formatting part of that. That would be a bigger, different thing. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Any questions about this? Any questions in general? I am working on the manual to add a couple of the new update things in there. The locations update that we had, that search builder update. So hopefully you'll have that into the summer. We'll be optimistic. It's mostly done. It's just needing to go in and kind of review and make sure it makes sense. And kind of, and I want to come up with a not index page, but numbering page, like so you can go in and see where everything is, so you don't have to scroll through everything every time. So, okay, if everybody's all good and I'm a perfect teacher and nobody has any questions, then I think we're good. And like I always say, you'll think of something as soon as we end this, and just feel free to email me and we can go from there. And also, if anybody has any suggestions for office hours topics, things that you want to go over again, feel free to send those in to me too. And other than that, happy cataloging, and everybody try to stay cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.